Hello, this is attorney and investor Bob Diamond with TaxSaleBlueprint.com. I'm here to show you two obvious and one hidden way to profit from tax sales and become the true Zen profit master of tax sales. Now, I'm probably familiar to you. You may have seen me on NBC or perhaps on CBS, maybe heard me on National Public Radio, saw me on Fox, maybe you saw me on the Flip This House television show, or maybe on MSNBC. Those major media outlets consult with me on how to make money in real estate and business under the current market conditions. And I'm here to tell you about an amazing opportunity coming from the current tax sale conditions today. Now, since you may be new as a tax sale investor, let's go over the options of playing the game. There are two very well-known tax sale strategies that I'm going to go over with you, and you're going to be familiar with those. And there's one little known, I would say virtually unknown, super profitable underground strategy. So let's go over all three strategies and I'll show you the good and the bad aspects of each strategy. So let's talk first about strategy 1 and strategy 2. Strategy 1 at the high level is buying at the sale. That's going to the auction, raising your hand, being the high bidder, and winning that property. It's pretty obvious, and sometimes it's a really good way to acquire properties, but it also has some very significant drawbacks which we need to talk about, because a lot of those drawbacks are really landmines that are just waiting to blow you up unless you know what you're doing. Strategy 2 is buying from the owner before the sale. This is a pre-tax sale or pre-tax foreclosure strategy. That fixes some of the problems with bidding at the auction, but it brings some new challenges with itself. It's a very well-known strategy by tax sale investors and one that we're going to talk more about. And it's strategy 3, that is the true insider's power strategy. Strategy 3 is an absolutely amazing way to become the Zen profit master of tax sales. Using strategy 3, you can make money whether you buy the property or not. Even if you get outbid by another investor, you can still make money on the property. You may get to the point where you're actually happier to be outbid and you're going up there shaking the hands of the guy who just outbid you. He's going to think you're crazy because you're sitting there congratulating him on beating you on the bid. What he doesn't know is that using strategy 3, you can actually make more money than he's going to make on the property, even though you weren't the successful bidder. So as we dive into strategy 3, I'll show you how that works. You can even get a partial rebate on part of your purchase price using strategy 3. And strategy 3 is the only way I know of doing this. So let's talk in depth about each of the strategies. So strategy 1, buying at the sale. This is absolutely the obvious strategy. Most folks go into tax sale intending to bid at the sale and then make a big killing on a property that they frankly buy for a song. And they buy it for pennies on the dollar, sell it for retail, and really make some great money. But then they get involved with the process of tax sales and they find that, well, this strategy isn't quite as easy or as lucrative as they had hoped. Now, I want to be clear with you. We do buy properties at tax sale even in the current market. But I'll also be clear with you that there is a problem, and that problem is competition. When you go to the auction and you see 100 other bidders that you have to compete against, it's kind of tough to get excited about being there, and heavy competition often runs up the prices. Properties often go for 75%, 80%, or even 100% full retail value because of competition. As I say, you're subject to the guy with the biggest wallet and the smallest brain can really kill you at tax sale. So there are a couple of other problems of going to the sale. First one is list drop off. So lists come out typically 45 days in advance of the actual sale itself. And then as a bidder, you have to start your due diligence process. And by due diligence, I mean you have to drive around and see each property that you want to bid on. So you've got to actually get physical eyes on that property. You don't get to see the inside of the property, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But you have to get started because these sales can be very, very large. The sales in my home area are typically 3,000 to 4,000 properties at a time. That's a lot of properties. You can only look at a small percentage of them. So it really is a big job, and it can be a full-time job just driving around seeing properties. The other problem is that most owners pay the taxes at the last minute. We may get a list that's 3,000 properties, but by the time we get to the sale, we're going to see maybe 15 or 20% of the properties that were originally listed are actually offered for sale at all. So the fact is the list is going to be cut down by 70 or 80% by the time the sale comes around. So in order to get properties, you have to evaluate a lot of properties. And our estimate is you evaluate 100 or more properties to get one property. And that's because between competitive bidders who are going to bid more than you want to bid and list drop-off, you're going to have to evaluate at least 100 or more properties for hope of even getting one deal. Now, this is frustrating. It's frustrating for all bidders, and it's very time-consuming. So due diligence becomes a job of its own with a lot of wasted effort. And by due diligence, I mean driving past properties and seeing them. Due diligence is an issue because you don't get access to the inside of the property before the auction. The best you can do is drive by and guess about the condition, and then you can go and bid. That's a serious thing because there are no guarantees. You pay cash in full at the time of your successful bid. No warranties, no guarantees, and no refunds. That can make the sales risky because unless you do your due diligence, you're going to get hurt. And even when you do your due diligence of driving by the property, sometimes the property looks much better on the outside than it is on the inside, and you have no way of getting in there until after the auction you've already bought the property. Another challenge with buying at the auction itself is that there's no financing. You can't get a mortgage. You have to pay cash to the auctioneer at the time of your bid, and there's no traditional settlement, and it's literally impossible to get a mortgage. And I'll expand on that a little bit in a couple minutes. But you cannot get a mortgage. And one of the problems with getting a mortgage is that title companies will not insure tax sale purchases, meaning property bought at the tax sale, unless you file what's called a quiet title action lawsuit. And that's a lawsuit where a judge is signing an order saying that you own the property free and clear of any of the old owner's interest and anything else. So essentially, you can't refinance or sell the property until you win that quiet title action. And because of that, you can't get a mortgage. Mortgage companies will not issue mortgages without title insurance. And secondly, because it's not a traditional settlement, you can't sit there in a courtroom and hold a settlement. Even if you got around the title problem, you have no way of holding a traditional settlement. And so you really just cannot get traditional financing. And cash up front represents risk because when you're giving someone your money and it's not refundable, you bought it. So there's no chance to get a refund if you're unhappy with your purchase. So you really have to do a good job of your due diligence. And with these properties you're buying at the sale, there are 3 types of litigation that you can get involved with. Type 1 is the quiet title action. And I just mentioned to you, title companies will not insure tax sale properties and purchases until you file and win a quiet title action lawsuit. You can't refinance or sell the property until you win that lawsuit. So count on suing for quiet title with every purchase. Now, that is not a long or expensive process. Typically, it's a $2,000 to $3,000 lawsuit, typically done in a couple of months, but all litigation is the same. There are absolutely no guarantees with litigation, so you do have to keep that in mind that there are no guarantees. Second type of litigation is litigation to overturn the sale. Sometimes owners dispute the sale, which forces you into litigation over the sale. You have to pay a lawyer, and the property is tied up while that court process goes on, and sometimes the sales do get overturned. Now, if the sale gets overturned, you'll get the money that you paid for the property back, but if you fixed up the property, you may not get that back. You can't really fix up the property until you're through any of this litigation, and the only thing that stops this overturning the sale litigation is winning the quiet title action. Once that's done, then any later action to overturn the sale won't be successful. But there is actually a third kind of litigation you may get into, which is litigation for possession of the property, meaning occupancy. Sometimes owners refuse to move out of the property, which can force you into litigation over occupancy, and that's called an ejectment action lawsuit. In that case, you have to pay a lawyer, and the property is tied up while the court process goes on with an angry former owner occupying the house, which is not a good thing. Now, in some jurisdictions, they do give you occupancy of the house, and you'll need to check for your specific tax sale whether you're subject to this or not. Some states will give you the property free and clear of occupants. Other states won't. No state gives you a quiet title with it, so that we already talked about. But ejectment action, sometimes you get possession, but other times you won't. So again, part of your due diligence is understanding whether the sale you're buying at gives you possession or not. So that's buying at the auction. Good part, you can often get properties at some good discounts. Bad part is there is competition, so a lot of properties go for more than anybody should bid on them. And second thing is you can get into litigation because you're buying a property without the cooperation of the owner, which can create problems. So let's talk about an alternative to that, what I call strategy 2. That's buying from the owner before the sale. This is where you get the list, you contact the owners, and you buy the property from them before the tax sale. Fixes many of the auction problems, but it brings with it a problem or two of its own. So let's talk about that. here's what it fixes. It fixes the competition because you're the only one in that kitchen or in that living room sitting there talking to the owner and negotiating with them. You don't have 100 other yahoos bidding on it. Eliminates the litigation because if the person sells you the property, they're not going to come back later and litigate. You don't need a quiet title action. You get full interior access so you can see the inside of the property, and you can get traditional financing, so it eliminates the financing problem. So that's really good. You also don't have to spend time driving around to see 100 or more properties in order to get one, but you do have to spend a lot of time negotiating with owners. And the problem is that many owners are unrealistic credit junkies, and they want to keep their house. They want to stay in their house. They don't want to sell their house. So what they end up doing is begging you for loans or simply refusing to deal with you in a realistic way reflective of their bad finances. Because I can tell you, you should not be lending money to people that are losing their house due to taxes because they didn't pay their taxes and they're not going to pay their loan to you either. So if you lend the money, just consider it a gift. You're never going to see a penny of that money. So don't be a lender in that situation. And I personally just don't want to deal with what I call the broke folk, where I need to buy their house for 30 or 40% off its as-is value, meaning I've got to buy a $200,000 house for $120,000, $130,000. Otherwise, I don't want the house. It's really tough to negotiate with someone like that and even feel good about it or get them to be very cooperative. So the bottom line to this is that I, like most real players at tax sale, abandoned strategy 2. We don't do pre-tax foreclosures because essentially the strategy is a time suck. So you're going to find that neither I nor other bidders really bother with pre-tax sale foreclosure because bottom line, it's a waste of time. So I would not suggest that you try that. It really is a waste of time. You'll have people just hitting you up for loans all the time and you'll spend an hour and a half talking to them and it's a complete waste. So I don't like that strategy. So that's not the strategy I would suggest at all. There is a strategy that is terrific though, and it's called Strategy 3. That is a true insider's power strategy. When you learn and implement Strategy 3, you will become the Zen profit master of tax sales. Using Strategy 3, you can make money whether you buy the property or not. It's incredible. You do not actually have to buy the property to make money. Even if you get outbid by another investor, you can still make money. As I said earlier, you may find yourself going up and shaking the hands of the gentleman or woman that just outbid you at the tax sale. Why? You're doing it because you're actually happy they outbid you because you're going to make more money than they made at the sale. And it's an amazing, simple thing. Using Strategy 3, you can even get a rebate on 30 to 40% of your purchase price if you're the high bidder at tax sale auction. So using Strategy 3, you can actually get part of your purchase price back. So I would just put it this way. Prepare to be amazed by Strategy 3 because I've seen a lot in the 24 years I've been investing and the 21 years I've been an attorney. But I've really never seen anything as simple, as profitable, and as big as this opportunity presented by Strategy 3 that frankly all tax sale bidders should be doing, even a brand new tax sale bidder. I even say one better than that. Especially new tax sale bidders should be doing Strategy 3. So here's the background to it. Did you know that when properties are sold at tax foreclosure auctions, money that is left over is owed to the former owner? But here's the catch. That former owner has to know there's money there and they have to ask for it. And the problem is the owners have no idea that money is out there for them. So because the people entitled to the money have no idea that the money's out there or even how to ask for it, they never ask. So the thing is, these folks have lost their home, and now they've lost the cash generated from the sale of their home. It's really a double whammy. It's bad enough to lose your house, but it is a crime to lose all the cash generated from the sale of their home. And let me give you just an example. Say that you had an average price house in America, $200,000 house. The taxes on a house like that are typically going to be 2 to 3% of the home value per year. So let's say we're the top tier, 3% of the home value per year. That's $6,000 a year in real estate taxes. The property is going to be sold at tax sale if they fall 3 to 4 years behind in their taxes. So let's say that they're 4 years behind in taxes. Their taxes are $6,000 a year. That means the principal amount of the taxes is going to be $6,000 a year times 4 years, $24,000. Let's add some penalties and interest in there. Let's make it all the way up to $40,000, including penalties and interest. So the person owes $40,000 in taxes, doesn't pay the taxes, the property goes to tax sale. Well, tax sale bidding, as I talked about earlier, is competitive. Typically, the houses sell for 70 or 80% of retail. Sometimes they even go up to even full retail value. So let's say, for sake of example, our house sells at tax sale for 70% of retail value, which is a good deal for the bidder. They're going to buy a $200,000 house for $140,000, 70% of retail. It's a pretty good deal. But think about this. The government just collected $140,000 at the tax sale. The taxes that were owed, including penalties and interest, well, those were only $40,000. So the question is, what happens to that extra money? Well, what happens to the extra money, meaning the extra $100,000 that was collected over and above the taxes? The people who used to own the house, the former owner, is entitled to recover and reclaim that money. This makes sense to you, doesn't it? Because think about it. If your house is sold because you didn't pay $40,000 in taxes, the government collects $140,000 at the tax sale. Shouldn't you really get that extra money? Of course you should. The problem is that the government doesn't help people. When that money is unclaimed, here's the problem. The government gets to keep the money, and they get to keep it forever. And governments today are hungry for money, and this money is the favorite kind of government money they can have. This money's hidden under the carpet. The government doesn't have to raise taxes to raise this money. They don't get any constituents mad. They just keep quiet. And if they keep quiet, they get to keep the money. Other than those few people that find out about this, they're the ones that are going to ask and get the money. Otherwise, the money is lost forever. And when I did a study of this market, I saw that in a given year, typically 5% of the people come and ask for their money back. So if they collected $1 million worth of extra money in a given year, typically they're going to give out about $50,000 of that money in form of rebates to people who come and ask for it. The issue with this money is that if it goes unclaimed for too long, then the government gets to keep it, and they keep it forever. And you're going to love this word. As a lawyer, we like to study words. And the official word for this, you're going to write this down, the word is escheat, E-S-C-H-E-A-T. Take a look at that word. What is the root of escheat? It's cheat. You get it, don't you? Isn't that a great word? It's a perfect word for this. And typically the funds are going to escheat to the government if they're not reclaimed within 3 to 5 years. Now, it does vary by state. This is state law specific. So we've put together a list of states and the amount of time before the money escheats. But typically count on 3 to 5 years. And of course, our study guide will show you exactly how many years it is in each state. But think about that. So if in a given year, 5% of the people get their money back, and the money stays there from anywhere from 3 to 5 years, that means the vast majority of that money is never given back. Instead, it's kept by the government. So, for example, I looked at the budget for the state of California, which is a state that, of course, holds tax sales and extra money. Last year, they kept over $475 million in excess funds. And that's funds that have escheated. It's these kinds of funds plus some other kinds. Think about that. $475 million is what they kept. Their state budget annually plans on keeping at least that. It generally raises a little bit each year. Their budget for this year is $485 million, so they figure they're going to keep a little bit more. So you can see the kind of incentive that the government has not to say anything. They just keep quiet. And the bottom end result of this is that right now, all across the United States, there are hundreds of millions of dollars waiting to be claimed. In an average day, over 3,000 tax foreclosures are completed. And what I mean by that is Monday through Friday, the business days when they hold tax sales and tax foreclosures, the same thing. On an average day, 3,000 properties are sold. And JP Morgan Chase, who did a study of this market, said those tax foreclosure sales generate $13,698,630.14 on average each and every day. That is a lot of money coming into the system every day, Monday through Friday, all year round, year after year. It's no wonder there are hundreds of millions of dollars waiting to be claimed, because there's such an ocean of money coming to the system every day. And imagine if you could be a part of that cash flow. Let me show you an actual county list. I'm going to take out my handy dandy PowerPoint pen so I can point out a few things. And let's look at this first one. So Betty Juno. Betty Juno owned a property at 1415 Ridge Mill Terrace. The property was sold in June of 2014 at tax sale. The excess funds, meaning the extra money over and above the taxes that were generated, were $134,000. And by excess funds, by this term, what that means is the extra money left over after the tax sale. So there's $134,000 left over just waiting for Betty to come and ask for the money. And look at this. This was June of 2014, a long time ago. So what we know from that is that Betty does not know about this money. Because if Betty knew that there was $134,000 waiting for her just by going down to the government office and applying for it, she would be down there lickety-split. Matter of fact, she'd be down there yesterday morning. She'd get a teleporter and get herself down there. So we know she doesn't know about it. Here's another one, Old Peachtree Village Retail LLC. This is an interesting one. So they had a property at 1942 Old Peachtree Road. After the tax sale, there's $127,758.49 left over. The tax sale was in June of 2014, same time as Betty's sale. And we know that whoever these Old Peachtree Village retail folks are, they don't know about this money, because if they did, they would get down there and get that money. And, sometimes people get a little intimidated. They'll say, well, wait a minute, Bob, I don't want to deal with a big company. That's scary. I mean, who are these people? Well, I can tell you a couple of things. Old Peachtree Village Retail LLC is probably like a mom and pop type business. Think two guys in a truck. These are two guys that try to develop a piece of real estate, most likely, probably a retail center like a strip mall or something like that. They tried to develop it and it just didn't work out. It's interesting. You see Old Peachtree Village and Old Peachtree Road. This is probably a real estate development along that road. Didn't work out. I guarantee you they lost their shirts over it. To make matters worse, there's $127,000 they could get back to recover at least some of their losses, but they don't know about this money, because if they did, they would have gotten the money for sure. As part of our teachings on this, we teach you how to deal with LLCs, LPs, corporations, and those kinds of things, which you sometimes run into. Because these are real estate tax sales, almost always the things we're talking about are failed real estate development when they appear on these lists as a corporation. Because we know it's real estate, because they're real estate taxes that cause these excess funds. Let's just look at one more just real quick. So Kevin Johnson, poor guy, loses his house at Springcast Drive, $141,000 sitting there. His money's been sitting there since December 2015. And I didn't talk about this column yet. Working with Kevin, what we'll do is take a portion of the money for helping recover it. So we would expect to make $49,000 working with Kevin. So Kevin would get about $90,000. We would get about $49,000. That's kind of profits we're talking about. For Betty Juno, for example, it's $134,000 available. We would take $46,000 for helping get that money. By the way, our typical profit margin is 30 to 40%. That's the margin we look for. Just for round figures, Betty would be getting around $85,000. We would be getting $46,000. And by the way, it's a free country. You can charge as much or as little as you want. And realistically, I found you can charge up to about half. Anything above that, it starts to seem unfair to people and they just don't want to deal with you. You can charge, however you feel like charging, whatever you think it's worth to you. And these claims range from very large, which are $134,000 claims, to really big, like $46,000 claims, where you'll make $16,000. And just to give you an idea, typically to do these claims takes about 8 hours worth of time. It's spread out in dribs and drabs, but figure about 8 hours worth of work for each one that you do. And this is a list from one county in America. And this list goes on. I'm showing you the first page of it. Obviously, I started with the biggest claims first, and they work their way down. But just think about just what's on this page. So there's $1,053,981.44 in excess funds on this page. If we were to work and get all of these, we would expect to collect $368,000. So that is a lot of money. It's a lot of profit. So imagine that just from one list. And by the way, there are hundreds and hundreds of these lists all across the country. Just from one list, you're looking at $368,000 in gross potential profit. The excess funds captured by Strategy 3 is absolutely a game changer in tax sales, because you can capture profits from monies paid at tax sale, whether those monies are paid by other bidders or by you. You can get paid finder's fees of 30 to 40% of the money you help recover by helping connect people with those funds. It's really amazing. So our Strategy 3 business system allows you to make more profits at tax sale regardless of whether you were the successful or unsuccessful bidder, regardless of whether you attended the sale, and this can also be a standalone business. So let's take a look at some of these benefits just in a little more detail. First Strategy 3 benefit, you can make money if you're outbid. If you're outbid at an auction, what you do is you contact the former owner, work with them to recover the funds, and get 30 to 40% of what your competitor bid for helping recover those funds. This is why you may be actually happier when you so-called lose to another bidder at the auction, these people are going to think you're crazy because you're going to be bidding against someone. They're going to bid some crazy high price. You're going to smile and congratulate them for winning because you know that you're going to go work with the former owner. You're going to go recover those funds, and you're going to take 30 to 40% of what that Yahoo with the small brain and the big wallet just bid on the property. And you're going to recover more than he is. So you're going to be the most gracious loser ever. People are going to think you're nuts, but they're going to think you're nuts because they have no idea how you're making money on this. And they're just going to think you're the crazy guy. Second strategy 3 benefit, you can make money if you never bid. The way that you make money on properties you never bid is by working with the former owner to recover the funds for a cut of those funds. You don't have to be a bidder to go recover part of those funds. You just have to know the list is there, and then all you have to do is go and find the former owner. So you don't even have to attend the sale. We will show you how to get the list of monies being held after the sale. You don't have to go to the sale to write down the results of the sale. You can actually get these lists from the government agency that will show you exactly what money's sitting out there. That list I just showed you a couple minutes ago, that is an actual list from a government agency. I just sorted it in order so that the biggest ones are up there first because those are the first ones we want to work on. Another strategy 3 benefit is you can make more money on a winning bid. So if you do win the bid, say that you go up there, you bid, you raise your hand, and the auctioneer says, going once, going twice, going 3 times, sold. Sold the lady in red or sold to the man in blue. And that's you. Well, if you do win, you can contact the former owner and potentially get 30 to 40% of your bid price back working with the former owner to recover those funds. Isn't that crazy? You could outbid even the dumbest guy with the biggest wallet, Mr. P-Brain with the giant wallet. You could outbid him and still make a killing. And he'd have no idea how you're doing it. They'd look at you like you're absolutely cuckoo. You're not cuckoo. You're just really smart and savvy. Other bidders are literally going to be dumbfounded. They're going to throw their hands in the air and surrender when you walk in the room and begin to bid. Think about that. They're going to, oh no, here comes crazy old Ralph. What's he going to be? He's going to bid more than everybody. And he's smiling. And if someone else beats him, he's even happier to him. I can't stand that guy. That's who you're going to be. Strategy 3 benefit also avoids the auction problems that I talked about earlier. There's no risk of missing something in rush due diligence because you don't have to buy the property. All you have to do is go and recover money that's been paid to the government. So you don't have to get the property, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no cash in the barrelhead needed to buy the property because you're not buying the property. You're just helping recover that money afterwards for 30 to 40% of it. And there's also no litigation. As much as I'm an attorney, and of course you'd think I love litigation, in my investing life I do not like litigation. So you don't have to worry about quiet title. You don't have to worry about litigating with former owners trying to overturn the tax sale. It's really fantastic. An additional benefit of strategy 3 is more opportunities. It literally opens up the entire country to you, and more opportunities equal more profits. What I mean by that is typically buying properties at tax sale, that's a local activity because you need to do the due diligence. You have to deal with physical property. So that's something you do locally. With strategy 3, it's really a service that you perform anywhere by mail, internet, phone, or fax. So you literally have the whole country open to you. I guess it really has 2 aspects to it. One is at your local tax sale, you can actually be the Zen profit master. I mean, people have no idea how you're making money, but you're getting rebates on things that you buy. You're getting money back on something someone else buys. Your local tax sale, you're going to be kind of the Zen profit master. But on faraway tax sales where you never go, well, those you just get the list and you help the people recover the money for a portion of it. And ultimately, this is a service that really benefits you and benefits that former owner in a huge way. So this has a huge dollar and a huge auction power potential. And the reason I say that is literally, as we sit here today, there are hundreds of millions of dollars of strategy 3 money available right this second. Right now, it's not something that might happen, may happen, could happen, should happen. This is money that's sitting in government accounts right now, just waiting for someone to ask for it. It's possible to use this strategy with every tax sale. Imagine the advantage you'll have at auction and the additional monies you can make at your auction and at other auctions. That's why I say strategy 3 is the cat's meow. And I say it's a must-do for tax sale bidders. It's really clear that strategy 3 can blow away the earning potential of strategies 1 and 2 combined. And honestly, once you see how easy strategy 3 is, people ask me all the time if they can do it full-time for anywhere in the world, and the answer is absolutely yes. Frankly, I think it's the perfect business. You're helping other people who've lost everything get at least some of their money, some of their dignity, some restart money back, and you're making great profits for you. And I say, what could be better than that? Helping people and making a ton of money. Nothing could be better than that. It's the best business in the world. And I've spent years searching through the laws and the regulations, perfecting a system that streamlines Strategy 3 and gives you the ability to become the Zen Profit Master at tax sale auctions. So tomorrow we're going to continue your Zen Profit Master training. I'll show you how simple Strategy 3 is as a tax sale enhancement to your existing tax sale business, and I'll show you how it can also be done as a standalone business. I'll also show you why very little startup capital is needed. Really what you need is some elbow grease to put work into this business. It's not startup capital though, very low capital. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. And I'll also show you tomorrow how Strategy 3 gives you an unfair advantage at auction. You're helping people who've lost everything. They've lost their home. They've lost pretty much everything. And you're making great profits, which is the perfect business. So look in your email for your invitation to tomorrow's training video, and we will continue your Zen Profit Master training. So this is Bob Diamond with TaxSaleBlueprint.com. I will see you tomorrow. Look for your email invitation to tomorrow's video, and I'll see you there.